My name is Luke McNamara. I also worked on Topographies, as we talked about before. I'm a senior studying history here at Binghamton. Thanks again for everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate it. And I'm here to introduce our next two speakers. From the Onondaga Nation Farm, we have Angela Ferguson. Angela is a traditional corn grower from the Onondaga Nation and one of the founders of Braiding the Sacred, a growing network of indigenous corn keepers that help indigenous nations across Turtle Island recover and reunite with their communities' sacred seeds and traditional food sources. Ferguson also serves as the leader of the Onondaga Nation Farm Crew, which works to continue and reconnect members of the Onondaga Nation with their ancestors through traditional methods of agriculture, hunting, fishing, food gathering, and preparation. And also, along with Angela, we also have Pete Nunez from Quarter Acre for the People. Pete was born in the Dominican Republic and raised in Harlem, New York. He's developed a love for the outdoors while living in the beautiful redwood forests of Northern California and enjoys working the land and producing good food for the community. So join me in welcoming these next two speakers. Thank you guys so much.
So unfortunately, I don't think Pete is here, so you're just going to have to put up with me again with the Claire and Angela show. So if that is acceptable to Angela.
Absolutely.
So I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak in a number of different contexts before, but before we dig into bigger questions, do you want to talk a little bit about the work at the Onondaga Nation Farm?
Absolutely. That Onondaga Nation Farm is, it's my passion, and it's actually the role and responsibility of females to feed their people. And that means not just to cook and prepare the food, but to have that relationship from the earth all the way till the food enters the minds and bodies of your people. So it's not just farming. I guess you couldn't just call it farming for us, because it's actually, it's our way of life. It's who we are. And we consider all of our foods our relatives. We have a different relationship to our food. So the seeds are considered alive. They are considered to have life force, and they are not any less valuable than we are as human beings. So it's a really different, strong relationship that we have, and that's why the duty falls upon women, because women carry the seeds for human beings inside their bodies. So I remind even like my granddaughter, these guys help me plant. They're right in there. So they can feed themselves, they're sovereign. And, from the time a female is born, at that time it's, already determined that you carry the seeds for X amount per person of human beings inside your body. And whether those come to fruition or not, because it's not everyone's life purpose to parent, and it doesn't make a female less valuable. Because there's going to be children that lose parents, and then it becomes the duties of others to pick that child up. So that might be your responsibility. And then there's others who it's not. You may be carrying a different purpose. So the farm has really empowered not just females, but it's also got us back into our traditional foods. A lot of our diets have been colonized meaning that we adapted ourselves. Nobody really colonized us. A lot of us have done it to ourselves because we have the opportunity to go back to these things. So it's a choice now. We all are free, right? We have freedom. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage, not only my own community members, but all people from all races, to feed yourself. And that's actually what gives you your power back. So I was thinking about the question the woman said about rage, and believe me, there's a lot of Native women that get mad. And part of it is that, when we're around food, which is the basis of our entire culture. And Haudenosaunee is the people of the Longhouse. So you're a part of that. You're a part of that large membership of people, your relatives, and then you belong to a nation, which is really just where you reside. So you're either one of the 6 nations in the Confederacy, like for me, I'm Onondaga. And then you fall into the line of you belong to a clan, so you have a large clan family. And for me and my grandchildren, because it's always matrilineal, it's Ogundeitna, we are Eel Clan people. And then you belong to your biological family, you know, your mother, your grandparents. And so there's always a sense of belonging, you know. Once you get into the garden, now you have all these other responsibilities and relationships to plants, animals, elements, all those things. So it's good that my nation supports it, and what we actually do there is we do all traditional farming. We're not using fossil fuels. We're going back to the ancient farming methods and the land management of our people. And so we grow that traditional food for the people, and then we distribute it, because females were always responsible in Haudenosaunee culture for the economy and welfare of the whole village. So the women distribute food, and they also make sure that we have enough in case of a pandemic, climate change, all those things. So when this pandemic hit, we already had 4 years of food stored away for every single person on the nation. So we didn't have to feel rage, panic, pressure. What's going to happen to us? Fear. We didn't have to live so fearfully because we knew we were not and will not starve. So that's very important. It's part of the work that we do.
Thank you. So one of the phrases that you mentioned as you were sharing with us is sovereignty and food sovereignty. Do you want to talk a little bit? So I'm not sure everyone in the audience knows what that means. So can you sort of describe what food sovereignty? Oh, I can't speak today. Food sovereignty is. I know. What's food sovereignty? So we're going to do it again. What food sovereign? Okay, you know what I'm saying.
Food sovereignty.
Thank you. And how the Onondaga Nation and the Onondaga Nation Farm is working towards that.
So basically, you know, there's different definitions of what sovereignty can mean, because a sovereignty philosophy is also implemented through a sovereign person, because sovereignty requires participation on your part. So I think I watch as an observer of the way the United States government is working right now, and people are not being participatory to create what they really want. And so I think about that because there's a lot of people expecting others to do the work, right? So you see the activists out on the front lines. You see the environmentalists out there trying to keep the world alive, you know, keep the people safe. But it's difficult for us because gardens are like your first line of sovereignty. So when I heard that question about rage, I thought, you know how we get even with the Clinton-Sullivan campaign? We plant. Because that is every single time we do that, that's what they came to stop us to do. And so that is the way we peacefully protest and exhibit and honor our ancestors that died for that. So to me, there's stronger ways of using what we call gutni gohio, your good mind, to create the change you want to see, you want to be, you want your children to follow. So I say that a lot to people. Sovereignty means that you can take care of yourself as an individual, as a nation, as a community, as a family, and you are able to uphold your moral obligation to not only all of those people, but what you believe to be your maker. That's, to me, what sovereignty is. You can feed yourself, you can speak your language, and you can prepare your foods on your homeland, your ancient homeland, wherever that may be. That's what makes people sovereign.
Thank you. So another organization that you're very involved in is Braiding the Sacred. Do you want to talk a little bit about the work of Braiding the Sacred and how that fits into all of what we've been talking about?
Absolutely. A few years after the farm, by the way, it took me a minute to get the farm approved because I had to fight the patriarchy, like we all do. A woman can't be in charge. Anyways, but shortly after I got the okay on that, because you gotta, if you can envision what our governing process is that you have to get every single person to agree. So every single one of them. There is no majority rules. Everything must be unanimous. And that is very difficult to do, to get everybody on board from all the clans, all the leaders, to agree with your proposal. But anyways, after we started up the farm project, then the next thing that happened really fast was I met some other corn growers, indigenous corn growers, that wanted to figure out a way that we could work together to gather up as much knowledge as we could from the elders and be the bridge between the elders and the youth, because a lot of our youth aren't reaching out to the elders to gather that last hold of all the information that is our library of humanity. So we thought there's an urgent need and we better step on it. And we didn't know this pandemic was coming, but thank goodness we did that, because a lot of those people are gone now. So we started to have gatherings, and now we have thousands and thousands of people. It just kind of took off, and they're all over Turtle Island. And through that organization, the Chiefs Council did agree to support that group. It's just a grassroots effort of many of us, indigenous people. And we also have a seed collection that has many, many varieties of heirloom seeds that are uncontaminated from any genetically modified plants. And so it's our duty and responsibility to care for those. We spent about 3 years organizing that. And right now, I made it to 1,272 varieties of indigenous corn. So there's probably maybe 2,000 or 2,500 more varieties that I haven't got to yet. There's people helping me sort it all out and everything, but.
So I've got, I know we're sort of pivoting here pretty soon, but I want to give you a break from answering questions from me, and if you're willing to take some questions from the audience.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions for Angela? All right, I see hands. And, no, it's better to just make sure that we're all on the, can I get another wipe? Hang on, 1 second. Doing my best to make us as safe as possible, and again, not.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your activism and things that you're doing. I'm really curious just to hear a little bit of your own history in terms of how you came to this. Like, did you grow up really understanding your particular role in growing, or is it something that you came to over the course of your lifetime?
Well, agriculture is basically a part of our lives in all Haudenosaunee communities. And I was born and raised on the Tuscarora Nation that is right outside of it's in Western New York, right outside of Niagara Falls. And it was a huge agricultural community. So you were gonna learn how to plant. That was a given, and we had orchards and cornfields and grape vineyards. And I mean, that's just what I was used to seeing growing up and being a part of. And when I moved to Onondaga, the nation is about the same acreage wise of land, but I was like, where's all the cornfields? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like people are getting away from planting. There was only a few families at that time that were really doing big things, you know. And I'm like, we got to change all that. So, you know, we did. And it took me years, I mean, because I had to convince the chief that I worked for. He's not here anymore. And he was real tough. He used to never give me days off and say, the plants don't get a day off. So why do you? Why would you? And I think about that now because I actually work 7 days a week, like voluntarily, because it bothers me if I think, oh, I better go check on this or that, you know. So yeah, he kind of instilled that in me. But it started out as just growing food for elders that couldn't do it for themselves anymore, and then distributing the food to the elders. And then I was like, why aren't we doing this for the whole nation? We could bring it back to an old Haudenosaunee village. This is how we used to do things communally and share food communally. And it was of no cost to the people. The people don't have to pay for the food.
Other questions for Angela? Oh, I'm gonna get behind you.
Well, last year I did a COVID garden. So what I did is I did some food research to see what kind of foods help your immune system fight off viruses. So everything in there was an antiviral food. And then when you distribute it to people, they're like, I don't know how to prepare that. I don't know how to cook that, you know? So we did a lot of cooking, and we did meal distribution where we would cook the meals, all traditional foods on Sundays. And everybody could just drive through, open their trunk, and we'd put the meals in there, and you just drive along. So we did that for quite a bit during the pandemic. And along with that, we included different herbal teas and things that could help people's immune systems. We also had a group of medicine people making medicine all the time for people to boost their immune system.
How did you identify the heirloom varieties of corn? I mean, how did you know that where they were, or how many varieties, and that they were ungenetically modified?
The seed collection itself is separate from the Haudenosaunee varieties that we have. I mean, these are seeds that were carried from seed carriers throughout the generations that shared the seeds. Only within, sometimes with even families, people were very not stingy, but protective. And we're still that same way. So with the collection, there was a Cherokee corn farmer in Oklahoma who spent his whole life doing that work, protecting the food from genetically modified corn pollen. When he saw that coming, he did a lot of grow outs of things. And over time, people knew about him. You know, he was an elder when he passed, and he grew corn all the way till almost, till he couldn't anymore. And then he had an apprentice that he left the seed collection to. And the apprentice was like, I can't do this. I can't do what he did. I got to find someone else. And we met him through Braiding the Sacred. And then when he was showing me the seeds and I was picking up every single jar, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this one. Oh, I need this one, And he's like, are you gonna do that on every jar? And I was like, yeah, I am, because I love all of them. And he was like, oh, I think I found the person I'm gonna send them home with. And he said, you're just as crazy as Carl was about the corn and the seeds. So it's been a lot of work, but I have a lot of helpers. And yeah, so when we have people do grow outs, most of them are very experienced corn growers, and we have different protocols we follow. And, there's a lot of relationships that we're rebuilding. I mean, Native people, indigenous people, even here on Turtle Island, have put up a wall, and there's a wall around each individual that you got to break down to get through to the heart of the person. Then you got to break down the village, because there's a wall around that too. And sometimes we weren't nice to one another. So we had to get back to rebuilding through a common thread. Where can we start reconnecting? And it's always through food. So that's how we started opening up old tradeways. I was thinking about this Bitcoin thing that's going on, and I was like, Indigenous people, we started everything because we used food as currency, and right, we're just, whatever you place value on becomes your currency. And so that's what we're doing with food. So we're opening foodways again to eliminate the value of the almighty dollar. It's not really something to us that means anything as Native people. It didn't mean anything to African American people that were brought here. It didn't mean anything to the people from South America. It's a false narrative that we're putting on it, and we're the only ones who can change that. So as Indigenous people, we're using our food as our economy and our strength and our relationships.
I think that's a great note to end on. So let's give Angela a great big round of applause.